March 2018. A flight from London to Singapore, somewhere over the Bay of Bengal, about 7 hours in. The cabin was dark, most passengers asleep. I was reading. And then 3 things happened in quick succession. The seatbelt sign switched on with no announcement. 2 flight attendants who had been chatting near the rear galley stopped mid-sentence, walked briskly to their jump seats, sat down, and buckled in. And the engine noise changed. Not louder, different. A shift in pitch that lasted maybe 4 seconds. Nothing else happened. No masks dropped. No announcement for 20 minutes. The plane kept flying. But those 20 minutes were the longest I have sat in a seat without moving, because I did not know what any of it meant. I did not know if the crew sitting down was routine or critical. I did not know if the engine sound was normal or a warning. I had no framework for reading what was happening around me. And that gap between seeing something and understanding it, that is where panic lives. A few months later, I met a retired commercial pilot at a hotel bar in Frankfurt. 30 years with a European flag carrier, mostly long haul. I told him the story. He laughed. He said what I experienced was almost certainly a minor course correction combined with the crew responding to a fasten seatbelt signal from the cockpit. Probably turbulence on the weather radar ahead. Routine. The crew sat down because they are trained to respond immediately when the signal comes, not because anything was wrong, because the protocol does not distinguish between mild turbulence and severe turbulence at the instruction stage. You sit down first. Then you find out why that conversation changed how I think about flying, not because he made me less afraid, because he showed me the system. Behind the cockpit door, nothing is improvised. Every situation a pilot might encounter has a checklist. Engine failure. Depressurization. Fire. Hydraulic loss. Electrical failure. Medical emergency on board. Each one has a written procedure, tested in simulators, refined after every incident in the global fleet. Pilots do not make decisions based on instinct. They make decisions based on flowcharts that have been pressure tested by thousands of hours of failure analysis. The pilot in Frankfurt called it the opposite of heroism. He said, "Good pilots are boring. They follow the checklist. They communicate with the first officer. They do not skip steps." This is called crew resource management. It was developed after a series of crashes in the 1970s and 80s where investigators found that the accidents were caused not by mechanical failure, but by communication failure in the cockpit. One of the cases that triggered the reform was a crash in Portland, Oregon in 1978. A United Airlines flight ran out of fuel while the crew focused on a landing gear problem. The flight engineer noticed the fuel levels dropping and mentioned it. The captain acknowledged it but kept circling. The engineer mentioned it again. The captain kept circling. The plane ran dry and crashed short of the runway. 10 people died. The flight engineer had the correct information. The captain had the authority. The system had no mechanism to force the information up the chain. After that, and after similar cases in Tenerife and other places, the entire cockpit communication structure was redesigned. Captains who ignored input from junior officers. Crews who did not speak up when something looked wrong. All of it was addressed. The system now requires that every person in the cockpit challenge, confirm, and cross-check every decision. The captain is not a king. The first officer is not a passenger. They are 2 halves of a verification loop. And the moment one of them sees something that does not match expectations, they are trained to say it out loud. Loudly, if necessary. Now the 40 seconds. The competitor version of this story says if a flight attendant sits down, you have 40 seconds. 40 seconds before what? The number comes from the time of useful consciousness during a rapid cabin depressurization at cruise altitude. At 35,000 feet, if the cabin suddenly loses pressure, the average person has about 15 to 40 seconds before hypoxia impairs their ability to think clearly. That part is true, but the framing is wrong. 40 seconds is not a countdown to death. It is the window in which the oxygen masks deploy. The pilots begin an emergency descent, and the cabin pressure starts recovering. The masks give you about 12 to 15 minutes of supplemental oxygen. The emergency descent brings the aircraft to a safe altitude in about 3 to 5 minutes. The 40 seconds is the gap between decompression and the system kicking in, and the system is designed to close that gap automatically. The pilot I spoke to said the most misleading thing about the 40-second story is that it makes passengers think they need to do something. He said the single most important thing a passenger can do during an emergency is sit still, put the mask on, and wait. The crew is executing a procedure. The pilots are flying a checklist. Every second a passenger spends standing up, reaching for a bag, or trying to film what is happening is a second they are not in their seat where the seatbelt can protect them. He said the data from survivable incidents is consistent. The people who do best are the ones who stayed seated and followed instructions. The people who did worst are the ones who tried to think for themselves. So what do the crew signals actually mean? A flight attendant who suddenly sits down and buckles in means the cockpit sent a signal. It could be turbulence, it could be something else, but the crew does not wait to find out before complying. A meal service that stops abruptly means the same signal came and the priority shifted from service to safety. A chime you have never heard before might be a crew communication tone. Different airlines use different sounds, but it almost always means the cockpit is talking to the cabin. None of these signals mean you are in danger. All of them mean the crew is doing their job. The hardest thing about flying, for passengers, is the gap between watching and understanding. You see the crew move, and you do not know why. You hear a sound, and you cannot decode it. You feel the plane shift, and your body floods with adrenaline. But behind the door, someone is reading a checklist. Someone is talking to air traffic control. Someone is cross-checking a decision with the person sitting next to them. The system was built by studying every crash, every near miss, every error in the last 50 years of commercial aviation. It is not perfect. But it is the most thoroughly analyzed safety system humans have ever built. The cockpit is controlled chaos with a procedure for everything. The airport at 2 in the morning is a different kind of chaos entirely. No procedures, no crew, no system looking out for you. Just you, a dead phone, a metal bench, and fluorescent lights that never turn off. I have been in that situation more times than I want to admit. Charles de Gaulle at 3 in the morning after a cancelled connection. Istanbul during a 12-hour layover that turned into 18. A regional airport in Southeast Asia where the terminal closed and they moved everyone outside. But somewhere around the 50th time, it stopped being miserable and became a routine. I figured out a protocol that works in any airport, anywhere, and it starts with knowing where not to sleep.